by the so-called Trump of the tropics. Our Joe Johns is live at the White House with the very latest. Joe.
John, you know, when you think about it, it's kind of amazing. This is a country that pays so much attention to its fallen warfighters. We've got Veterans Day, we've got Arlington Cemetery, and we've got a president who never served in the military, got deferments to keep from going to Vietnam, going after the memory of a fallen American war hero. The president has gone after John McCain before, but never quite like this.
I was never a fan of John McCain, and I never will be.
President Trump doubling down on his criticism of Senator John McCain more than 6 months after his death, blaming him for the failure of his effort to repeal Obamacare after disparaging him repeatedly over the weekend.
He told us hours before that he was going to repeal and replace, and then for some reason, I think I understand the reason, he ended up going thumbs up. I think that's disgraceful.
A former McCain aide telling CNN that conversation never happened. The president's criticism coming the same day as this hateful message shared by Senator McCain's wife, Cindy. The sender telling Cindy that she's glad her husband is dead before attacking her daughter, Megan, who has staunchly defended her father.
I just thought, your life is spent on your weekends, not with your family, not with your friends, but obsessing over great men you could never live up to. That tells you everything you need to know about his pathetic life right now.
Megan tweeting overnight, quoting her father with a Latin phrase that means, "Don't let the bastards grind you down." President Trump once again peddling a growing conspiracy theory about social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, alleging without proof that they're colluding to silence conservatives.
It seems to be if they're conservative, if they're Republicans, if they're in a certain group, there's discrimination and big discrimination.
This week, the president's loyal ally, Congressman Devin Nunes, sued Twitter for more than $250 million, claiming the platform allowed its users to spread false and defamatory statements about him.
Every American should care about this if they care about the First Amendment.
The president pushing this unfounded claim alongside the controversial president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, who touted both leaders' efforts to ensure traditional and family lifestyles and efforts against gender ideology and fake news. A seemingly pleased President Trump applauding Bolsonaro's remarks.
I'm very proud to hear the president use the term fake news.
And there was even more of the grievance fest. The president also went after George Conway, the husband of presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway, calling him a loser after George Conway questioned the president's mental fitness in tweets. John, back to you.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. Joining us now is Margaret Tlaib, senior White House correspondent for Bloomberg News and a CNN political analyst. She is traveling with the president to Ohio today. Margaret, thanks so much for being with us. It's obvious, listening to the new leader in Brazil, that Jair Bolsonaro knows that the way to President Trump's heart is through his ego.
Well, they don't call him Trump of the tropics for no reason. And what you saw on display yesterday was absolutely both leaders signaling very clearly to one another and to their own domestic constituencies that they both see the merits of being on the same page when it comes to a lot of things, including the way they talk about legitimate critics in the news business. But I thought what you then saw in return from President Trump when the Brazilian leader talked about there is a push in his administration now for anti-LGBT policies in Brazil. And you did see President Trump stand by. And rather than say anything like, well, we have our differences and this is one of them, but I'm glad you're here, the president just sort of left that alone. And then you saw Bolsonaro meeting with evangelical leaders at Blair House across the street from the White House, and so on and so forth. And so you see both men working on their sort of mutual desires, whether it's Venezuela or trade or whatnot. And President Trump decidedly being very uncritical of any of Bolsonaro's policies.
As a former president of the White House Correspondents Association, I'm wondering what your view was of President Trump praising Jair Bolsonaro for using the term fake news. Of course, Bolsonaro leads a country where dissenters in the past have been killed.
Yeah, this has consistently been a very troubling issue if you're a journalist, not just in terms of covering the White House, but in terms of its impact on journalists abroad and journalists covering local news all over this country. The president sees this as a political loyalty test or a rhetorical way to rally his base. But for journalists, the idea of trying to discredit legitimate news coverage is troublesome, not just because of the journalism business, but because of the impact that it has on the public. The press is just an extension of the public, whose job it is to ask tough questions of people, to hold truth to power and to inform the citizenry. And so these efforts in the United States are troubling, and they're very troubling when they happen around the world as well.
It was interesting to see the president stand up again yesterday against John McCain, who passed away in August. He's just not going to let this go.
No. he's not going to let it go. And because the late Senator McCain sort of had that maverick personality and would sometimes vote against the party, even though President Trump has changed kind of the base and the core of the Republican Party, there are people inside Trump's base who also felt that way about Senator McCain. And so the president kind of sees it as a win on both ends. And we're talking about it. He likes it that we're talking about it because it's repeating the message that he wants to get out. And so, no, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon.
The people who lose are the McCains. Cindy McCain's been getting vile messages on social media.
Devin Nunes isn't the only one, and neither is the American Press Corps.
Right.
Twitter's mean to everyone, yeah.
Good point. Margaret Talev, great to have you. We'll talk to you again in a second.